Almost at 1,000 hours of view time. Keep up the good work. Keep sharing the videos. Keep doing all that good stuff. I want to do a moment of silence before we start. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you for that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Yeah, hey, my name is Ryan. I went to Spring Creek Lodge Academy, and I went in 2005. Got there in April of 2005, and then left right before Christmas 2005. So almost 9 months.
Okay. And were you transported, or did your parents bring you up there?
No, I was transported. 2 big dudes woke me up, drove me to the airport, and brought me all the way there.
Okay. What do you remember about your first day there? Did you remember them going over rules with you? Do you remember them buddying you up? Walk us through your first day. What you remember?
Yeah. So I remember on my way there, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it was going to be more of like a boarding school. Like, I understood I was in trouble, but I didn't think it was going to be like that type of school. So up until then, I kind of was like, all right, well, we'll check this out. So when I got there, and I remember seeing the lines of people walking, like in step, and everybody having the same hair and same uniform on. And I remember, I went into the office, like to the left, where, they did all the admin.
Staff Central?
I'm sorry?
Staff Central?
Yeah. So I went in there, and that was when a member of junior staff came up to me. I remember his face. I don't remember his name, but I remember he went, his first question was, "How old are you?" And I'm like, "I'm 17." And he was like, "When do you turn 18?" And I'm like, I hadn't thought about it, and I'm like, "Well, actually in 6 months." So he was like, "Oh, okay, well, you're lucky." And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, you're not leaving here, until then at least." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I thought I'm just here for school." So I was, this was like my last, I left April of my senior year. So to me, I was just going to, maybe finish up school and be done by, June. So,
Yeah.
I remember him, cutting my hair. I remember I had saved, I had like a little, my mom packed me stuff for the plane and the trip, because I'm on the East Coast, so I had a pretty far journey out there. And so a part of that was a bag of Milano cookies. And I remember like, oh, I'll save them, for when I get there.
Yeah.
And, they search my bag, they take everything, and they're like, "Oh, we're taking these." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You can't have these." I'm like, "They're cookies," like, so yeah, like that. And then I just remember going to like my family and just seeing everyone and meeting everyone, and just, being totally just surprised about where I was. And I just remember being in shock, really.
I can imagine. So how long after you got there did everything fully sink in and you realized that place was crazy? How long did it take?
I mean, probably just, a couple days, I kind of remember just walking in line. It was the morning, and it was like my second or third day there, and just coming to a stop. I just the whole thing of it, just looking around and just realizing all my rights were, and going to school and learning how they were going to do that, and just being like, wow, this is completely different than anything I'm used to. And Yeah, but I caught on pretty quick. I got in trouble, like, probably that's like second or third day. There was this kid, Sunshine, because he had like long flowing blonde hair, and they cut it when he got there, so it was like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. That was his nickname. And he had his cookies. I guess he had like taken his cookies and he was hiding them in his pillow, and I took them because I was hungry, and I got like a theft, and I went to the
intervention.
Well, I don't know if it was. I think it was. What's the
Study hall.
What?
Study hall. Study hall.
Yeah, I think it was a study hall, and I went in there, and I was like, "This is fucking miserable," and then I just kind of started, playing the game pretty much, and doing whatever I could do to get the hell out of there as soon as possible.
For sure. How long after you got there did you go through your first seminar?
I don't know. I don't remember. So, what's the very first seminar?
It would either be orientation or discovery.
I think I did orientation, and then I did discovery, and then I did focus. I think those were the only ones I did.
Okay, and you don't remember how far into your stay there they did orientation?
I don't know. So after that incident I had, honestly, I was pretty much on my P's and Q's. So anything that came up, I was pretty much eligible for and did, like, whenever I was eligible to do it. I always had the points. I always had the level, so I think it's like maybe like 2 or 3 months or something when you can first do it. I don't remember though.
Okay. I'm just asking because some people get thrown into it like the week after they get there.
Oh yeah, no, I think I had some time. Because I remember feeling a lot of anxiety going into them. Everyone tells you how all the homework and how you can get kicked out, and if you get kicked out, that means you got to stay longer. And so I just remember, those were kind of my goals. That's what I was basically always looking forward to, was that next seminar, so I could try and get through that, and on to the next.
Okay. Why did you get sent there?
Why? Yeah, I come from a family that's they're all in sobriety.
Like 12 step?
Yeah, very active in the 12 steps. My parents met in meetings. They got divorced, and my mother remarried within the meetings. So my grandfather, but luckily, they're all long time, sober. Even before, like, I was even around. But with that came, they didn't really want me doing anything, right?
Nothing.
And I was a pretty, normal kid.
Were you were you straight edge?
No, I partied, but what happened was, I really like smoking weed. And
that's all I do, man. That's all I do.
I really enjoyed smoking weed, and I felt better on pot. And this was back in 2004 or 5. So things definitely weren't like, maybe like guys like you and I kind of knew the benefits, but when it came to telling your parents about the benefits of marijuana, that was just crazy talk.
Yeah.
So
hearing out the other.
It basically got to a point where I was kind of choosing to, either like just stay at friends' houses or sleep in my car, or, go to, I had some older friends in college, so I'd go to their dorms.
Yeah.
And I rather do that and kind of live how I wanted to live. And, having to do that and kind of go away from your family, then, that made me have to, kind of start, stealing or skimping and, doing shit just to like eat and get gas and get pot,
You were doing that just for weed?
I mean, at times, yeah, just to have money, just to throw down.
I feel it.
I had no money. I didn't have a job. So, whatever I can do to put gas in the car and get some food that day and, be able to throw down on the party. But I always like to have my pot, so it's like, I always wanted to at least get that. But it wasn't just for the weed. It was really just for like my whole lifestyle, really.
Okay.
So yeah, it got to a point where I was gone for a little bit, and I came back.
Like you'd left your house and like ran
Yeah,
away.
yeah, and I was gone for like a long kind of period of time, like probably like a week or something. And I came back, and it was the NCAA college basketball championship, and I remember watching it in my house, where like I would always just hang out there when I was home. And my mom and stepdad came down and like hung out with me, and which I thought was kind of weird. And then that was the night, I ended up passing out on the couch, and I woke up to the two guys. But it was really that, I wasn't, following their rules, their structure. To them, I was very out there with my beliefs, and with that too came, I didn't get any legal trouble, but I had friends getting into trouble. My mom would go to work, come back, and maybe a bunch of DVDs would be gone because I snagged them to bring them to FYE to get some cash. So there is a lot of these little things that I guess brought them to the point where they thought this was the best option.
For sure. So you were there 9 months?
Yeah, I did. I was at Spring Creek until April, May, July, August, so like September, and then I got a I forget what they call it, but they basically let me go to the junior staff.
Oh, experience, upper level experience?
Yes, so I did it. So I remember I wrote a letter to my my family rep, John Riddle, explaining to him how I deserve to go on an experience because I'm just going to go to the ranch and I'm not going to have the opportunity to, do the upper levels. So they let me go do that because I turned 18 in October. So they let me do that for like a month and a half. And then I went over to the ranch and then stayed there until December.
Okay. And so you went to the 21 and over?
Well, 18.
Is
18.
Oh, yeah, 18 and over, sorry. What was your experience at the ranch? We haven't talked about that much on the podcast.
The ranch wasn't the worst. The food was a lot better. You could drink tea, soda. The work was cool. You were just in the middle of nowhere in Montana, man. And they have miles and miles, hundreds of acres of property. And like I remember one of the chores is feeding the hunting dogs. And I couldn't tell you how far it was, but I think it was a couple mile walk. So you just be walking into the plains of Montana, go feed the dogs, come back. We did a lot of work with like conservatories, I think, spotting different animals. A lot of volunteer work in the area. Good group of guys, you always have your couple outliers. But for the most part, it was kind of an older scene, which was nice. Kind of everybody kind of had the same priorities, do well and get out, because, we're there just, either waiting out a good exit plan or trying to finish the program, so, believe me, it still sucked, turning 18 there, having my birthday there. I remember I got birthday beatings and that kind of, fucked with me.
Birthday beatings, go into that. What is a birthday beating?
Oh, like, it was my birthday. So we had little cabins there. So every cabin was like for 4 guys, right? They were tiny little cabins.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I walked in on my 18th birthday at like the end of the night, and like 5 or 6, like 6, maybe like 8 guys jumped out and just started wailing on me pretty much, and I didn't really care about that, but it was like just the whole day being there for my birthday, 18, not with my friends, not with my people, not how I picture that going, and just getting my ass kicked. I just broke down there for a night. But
Did they get in trouble for doing that?
no, I don't think so. I didn't bring that to attention. Again, they didn't like kick my ass where I was bloody, you know what I mean? But they all took their turns and gave me good shots, and weirdly away, it was more friendly, if that sounds weird.
Okay, so sort of out of like tough love type thing, like big brother.
Yeah,
type,
but
like,
for me, it was more like I don't know. It was just that was a hard day for me, and then I'll always remember that, and that just kind of like setting me off emotionally, just being like, Jesus Christ, like what have you fucking done? Like you're here dealing with this shit on your birthday,
do you still deal with a lot of guilt from that?
Guilt? No, I wouldn't say guilt.
Or like, do you hold it against yourself? Like, damn, I shouldn't. Like, how could I be this fucked up and like, well, not this fucked up, but like, how could I fuck up so bad that I got sent to a place like this type thing?
Yeah, well then, now I look back and, I look at it as more of a product of the times, what was going on. Obviously the internet was out, but, they just couldn't look up stories about what was going on here and there, so my parents were listening to doctors and, people probably on the take.
Well, also the information out there is still filtered even to this day, so it's still hard to find information.
At least now you type in Spring Creek Lodge and like, the first things you see are, all the shit going on,
Yeah.
Or like even there, I noticed there was, I want to say it was at Wall Street Journal or Washington Post or something. They did a big article and it was published about Spring Creek, I want to say, and it was published probably just a few months before I went. Now, I just saw this article within the last few years, just kind of going, just going online and looking into shit. And I was like, well, geez, like if, my parents were able just to do a Google back then and, they might have seen that. And I wonder what would have happened. You know what I mean? So, I don't know if I would necessarily change what I did when I was younger. I guess I wish I could have had a better conversation with my family to, try and come to like an agreement. But yeah, I don't know. It's taught me a lot. I mean, the program sucked, but going through that young and meeting all these different types of people and doing all this crazy shit, when I came back, I just felt like, a different person just through what I went to and my experiences and kind of what I felt like I brought to the table now.
So you felt like a different person, like in a good way or bad way?
Both, I definitely felt different, I always kind of felt like I had that hanging over my head, like, oh, that's the kid that, got shipped off to Montana, like, you come back home and people are just coming up to you like, dude, you were in school one day and the next day, you were gone forever. Like what we all, like my friends thought I had died, so it's like, you're out, you're meeting new people and they're like, oh, this got to Montana, this is that. It's like, shut up. Not everyone needs that. So I felt different from a lot of my peers and people. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I did feel a lot more insightful about myself, insightful kind of about the world. I didn't think I was so naive, I guess, to things. I was definitely humbled the fact that I was shipped off, maybe I can't just do whatever the hell I want whenever I want. There are repercussions.
Yeah.
So, I guess I just felt a bit wiser. I definitely learned how to kind of bullshit better there to
Yeah.
get through. I was after that one moment I had with the cookies, I pretty much did my thing, and I remember being, point leader in my family and family leader. Um, you know, I, you know, I just stayed out of trouble, but I remember, I remember some kids tried to run one night, and
Yeah. That.
I wasn't gonna run, but I was going to, I was gonna try and help them. So we were in the cabin. I was encouraged. We're in the cabin, and you know how they have the guy, like, he sits in the rooms and he kind of, I think there was one guy for two cabins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they would kind of go back and forth, right? From us to, I think it was Quest, who was on the other side. And I don't remember the plan. I don't even really remember who was involved, but all I know is I was on the top bunk, and I went and jumped down, and I fucked up my toe. And my toe today is still fucked up because I never told anyone. I don't know. I might have broken my big toe, and I couldn't tell anyone.
You landed on it?
I landed on it weird, heard a sound. It was like, fuck. And I just jumped back in my bed before the guy came back in because he heard me, And then after that, the guys kind of continued with their plan. They didn't work out by any means. I don't even think they got out of the room. But and to this day, my one toe is so much fatter than my other toe because I just never had it looked at.
That's crazy. They might not have even done anything, even if you did tell them, because I've heard of people not getting medical care there a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I more just didn't want to get entangled in the whole run plans and stuff like that. So, I did my part. I tried. I fucked up, and I got it. I got out of that. But I was not honest. I was not the best kid there. I'll tell you that. But for whatever reason, I was able to kind of hide behind my points, and I had enough. I don't know, friends in my family that nobody would really squeal on me or do anything like that.
For sure. Were there any other runners that you remember that stuck out notably? Or do you remember them? Do you remember them telling you that what happens in the woods stays in the woods? First of all,
what happens in the woods stays in the woods. I don't remember that.
Okay.
But I think I was listening to Devon's episode, and he sounds like he was there around when I was. He kind of looked familiar too, and he was talking about Nick Thomas, who I was in with him. So that was extremely sad when him and his mother died in the snow out there. But the running, he had mentioned about the kids taking the mail truck and getting busted.
FedEx. Yep.
Yeah. I had totally forgotten about that until he mentioned that. So I don't remember if I was there, but I remember hearing about that. And other than the kids that tried to run, I just remember going on lockdown sometimes and, hearing some kids might have gotten away and, they were back and then sent to Jamaica within a few days, so nothing really stands out besides that mail truck, which was talked about on a previous podcast.
Okay. What was the craziest thing you saw there or heard about? And what was the best thing? What was the best thing?
The best
if there is any good things.
Yeah, well, I remember there was this guy, I think he might have been involved. Maybe that's what it is. So I think he might have been involved in that run thing. And I think he kind of got caught. And it was shower time. And he, his water was still running after turnoff, right? and it's running. So like they're like, hey, I forget the kid's name, maybe Dave. I don't know. He wasn't really around very long, but he he wouldn't turn his water off. So finally they opened up the shower curtain and we're looking in, and he's on the floor. He has "I'm sorry" written on the shower in ink, and he had basically tried to drink a bunch of ink, soap, toothpaste. He had like some foot odor stuff, like, and he basically tried to consume all that to kill himself.
Yeah.
Or get sick. I don't know. But so he's on the ground, kind of like coming out. So they take him, obviously, right? So we're in bed, we're sleeping, and I remember I'm on a top bunk, and it's, I don't know, 4 in the morning, something like that, and the door opens and that kid comes back in, and he's in the top bunk, like right next to me.
Okay.
So I'm like, again, I'm fine with the kid, but I don't really trust his mental fortitude at the moment. So I'm like, you're really gonna bring this kid back, and put him right next to me, like when so I couldn't sleep the rest of the night, so that kind of freaked me out a little. And then yeah, he got shipped off like within a day or two to Jamaica. I remember one kid streaking through, like,
What?
butt naked, just streaking. We were in line right in front of, what'd you call it, Staff Central?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one kid just streaking, running through and getting tackled on the stones. I want to say it was Wiggles,
Dude,
who
I
tackled
remember
him,
this.
and yeah, his nuts like dragged across the rocks. I later saw him at the ranch. He was a great guy. I forget his name, but I remember being like, dude, the only thing I knew about you was one day I just saw you running around with your tiny wang out. What others? I mean, I feel like there's a lot. I just remember like dudes breaking separation with one another, and like that always like being big news, like dudes hooking up with other dudes, being like, what the fuck? I remember kids drinking the hand sanitizer and that being a whole fucking thing. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably more. But I mean, those are probably the craziest ones I can think. I mean, I remember some kids always causing trouble and being restrained and seeing shit I never thought I'd see when they like just for like. But I with the restraining, I'm still kind of grasping my mind around that, I guess, because I mean, some of these kids, man, when they got going, they had some crazy strength, and it was like, in order to really get them down, they had to do what they had to do, I guess. But I couldn't believe that that's what it took to get a 13, 14-year-old kid down, I don't know. Just the fact that these kids can like come into your life and then all of a sudden be like sent away and go to a worse place, or, just totally fuck up your stay. And this is crazy.
It is hella crazy, brother. Do you remember seeing or hearing about any of these staff members getting inappropriate with any of the students?
I think I remember hearing. I think Devin talked about Darcy, and I remember she was my family rep's wife, I believe. Darcy Riddle was her name. So I remember hearing about that. I think you always kind of heard rumors and shit, but I don't really remember anything sticking with any, like, I mean, you always heard about like Cameron and Chafin being dogs. But
What did you hear about them?
Just everyone would say that, I never heard like an exact story or circumstance, but I feel like they kind of creeped everybody out, and that was kind of the vibe they gave off.
Yeah. Did you ever witness any of the staff doing any drugs or giving drugs to the students? Because I've heard one person say that there was a lot of drugs being.
Yeah, no. I do remember one kid working. It was like over the summer, and I remember him having his medical marijuana card and him showing me that, and that was like the first time I had seen one. You know, again, this is 2005. He was from California.
Yeah.
So he was working summer there. He didn't have anything, or at least he didn't show me anything. But no, you know, I think I was always not really involved in that end of stuff, you know, because again, I was really all about getting out of there.
Yeah. When you got on the upper levels, do you remember? Well, first of all, what was your stretch in focus?
My stretch and focus. Oh, holy shit!
You know
That's
what I'm
like
talking about, right?
that's like your one man show, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what was it?
Mine was Ricky Martin.
Ricky
Mine was
Martin.
Ricky Martin.
Nice.
Viva Lopez.
You know what? Oh, mine was the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Yep.
What was it? Dancing in the Moonlight or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember one kid. Now that you say that, there was this one kid. I forget his name, but he was in Quest, and you know he was there for a while. And like I remember him starting to take a turn and doing well. And like he was a real like tough looking kid, right? Like you just looked at him and you know just like you didn't want to fuck with this kid, you know. And he got Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and I'll never. That's like one of like the few memories I have of the things. Now that you say it, was him doing that. But yeah,
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen.
Okay. And let's see. What level did you get to? Did you graduate?
No. So my exit plan was given to me like a little bit before I turned 18. So the one thing I never like the one thing that didn't go as planned was the first time I tried to level up to 4. I got the whole, you know, you're doing too good, it's fake sort of thing. So the regular junior staff
Wow.
didn't vote me to 4.
Wow.
But my exit plan, but that didn't really it didn't really matter to me because I was already on experience, and once I went to the ranch, I
Yeah.
got all the privileges anyway. So from a privilege standpoint, I didn't really care. But what happened was I got my exit plan. So, you know, luckily I had a pretty decent one. I heard of kids getting a fucking phone card and, you know, $20 or, you know, a train ticket or a bus ticket, you
Yeah.
know, not a lot. So my deal was I could come home anytime. So I could come I could come home on my birthday. I could wait until Christmas, or I could finish the program. If I came home on my birthday, it was going to be, you know, crazy life contract, you know, all these stipulations. If I just waited a couple months on the ranch, I basically like got, you know, it wasn't too bad. Like, you know, I had normal stuff from coming out of a program like that, curfew and kind of like a list of friends and, you know, stuff like that. But I was able to have my car, phone.
Did they make you do a live contract?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And then the third was obviously finish the program and, you know, come home to like the least, you know, amount of control, I guess you could say. So if I picked the middle one, Christmas, I had to at least reach level 4 and go through focus. So I had everything lined up. I got to the ranch. I leveled up at the ranch. You know, those guys, they all knew the deal. So nobody, you know, stood for me on that. And then I went through focus, and about a week before Christmas, I got out of there.
Okay. Do you think you would have worked your program so well if you hadn't been given that an option? Given that option? Do you think you would have gotten to level 4 and like went through focus if they didn't lay it out for you that you have?
Well, yeah, because if not, then my goal is to then finish the program, right? So, yeah, I would have had to do that. And then, I had to graduate high school too, which I did out there. I took my time with that though, because when I got sent out there, I had enough credits to graduate already. From Connecticut to Montana, I guess there was a pretty big discrepancy. So all I had to do was take like an art class, and I think it was an art class and like a history class, and I was good. So I just did that, and then I just redid like all my classes I screwed up on in high school, and ended up finishing there pretty good. But I actually have a funny story about that. So I was getting a job for a military contractor, and they were doing my background check. And I have that I graduated high school from Spring Creek Lodge. So during the employment verification, they were coming back to me that they didn't have a way to confirm my employment or my education. So I had my transcripts, and I had my what do you call it, diploma. So I sent that to them, and that still wouldn't work. They needed to be able to get somebody on the phone. I got them in touch with like the Montana School Board, all these different places. Nobody's picking up. I got like the Browning thing. I'm sure that's come across, your research or your discussions. Nobody was answering that. I think it was Chafin. I finally found I think it was him, but it was either him or Cameron's. I found like their daughter on Facebook.
Okay.
And I friended her, and she accepted. And I sent her a message saying, "Hey, I need someone to like confirm my fucking education." I was like, "I see your dad is, guy that ran the school. Is there any way you can get in touch with him and, hook that up?" So she actually ended up doing it. I ended up talking on the phone with this guy. I had never talked to him there, but I was kind of pissed because I had to play nice because I needed him. So I was like, I went to the program. I'm doing well now. I'm, trying to get this big job. He's like, "Oh, it's great to hear success." So for what it's worth, the guy did pick up the phone. He called the place. He confirmed everything, and I ended up getting the job. But yeah, I couldn't believe what it took in order to, just be able to get a job, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Okay, let's talk about like closer to when you got out. So when you get out, what happened after you got out? Like, how about reintegration into society? Was it hard to make friends? Do you still struggle with stuff from the program to this day? And like, how do you deal with it? And let's go there.
Okay. So when I got out, so I got out a little bit before Christmas. And I mean, a lot. So while I was gone, all my friends graduated, right? So I came back in December. So they were all like finishing their like first spout at college or work or whatever, right? But I mean, I'm trying to remember. I pretty much jumped right back into my old life fairly quickly. I mean, I was like doing AA meetings and stuff like that for a little bit. But and to my parents, I was doing it for longer. I tried to play the game for a while and kind of live both lives, where they thought I was, out at a meeting, but instead I was just hanging out with my buddies from high school, getting into it. But like I went to like I ended up going to college. I went to a state university out here in Connecticut, and I lived on the dorms. And I kind of convinced my family because they had AA meetings actually on campus, and it was a dry campus. So that's how I did that. I was out of there after a semester. I was part, like, I had just gotten out of Montana. Couldn't even look at a girl. So now I'm away at college in my own dorm room. I partied.
Was it awkward with women? Because you had said not being able to look at women. Was it awkward? Like, were you like,
Luckily, no. I mean, I was just young enough. No, I mean, I kind of, when it came to at least, like, I remember, I remember my first, the first night I was home, right? Come home, family, the whole thing, right? Family goes to sleep. So now it's like my first night, my first, like, pretty much my first moments alone, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and what I did was I hopped on my computer and I went on MySpace, right? Because MySpace was a thing back then.
Mm-hmm.
And just started hitting up every girl like I ever thought I had a chance with before I left.
Yeah.
And, you know, just kind of played that game. And no, I mean, when it came to girls, no, I think I was more eager, and I wouldn't say it really messed with me. I was just all about it. It kind of fueled me, I guess you can say, for a period. Um,
Well, what about other, like, have you noticed anything that, like, of the program, like anything that's like stuck with you that's hard to deal with from the program in particular? Like
yeah,
for me, I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, for example, and I have a hard time trusting people, and it's really hard for me to, just to interact with people. It's
yeah.
hard.
For me, I really find it hard to say when I mess up, and I kind of look at that like, or if I, you know, quote unquote break a rule or fuck up or do something, I don't tell my family because I guess deep down I feel like they're gonna ship me off. Um,
Yeah,
Even job, friends, anytime I let somebody down or do something, I really try and hide that, cover it up, and I look at that as a direct result of kind of my time there and what I learned there to kind of keep my guard up. And yeah, like not trusting anyone, kind of always waiting for something to happen. Because even after that, man, I mean, I ended up in rehab a bunch of times. I was in halfway houses. I was pretty much institutionalized in some way or form from 17 until 23. So I just, yeah, I mean, and it's all about when you're in there sounding like you're good, like sounding like you're doing well,
yeah,
like you have a grasp of it. Even if I didn't, I always wanted to play that part that I did,
yeah.
and still try and do that. And there's times when I'm struggling, or there's times where I need help, and I'm kind of incapable of asking for it, and it sucks.
Yeah, I totally feel you. What was your DOC? What did you end
I
up
was
going to
young.
rehab for?
When I was young, it was pot. I mean, it's still pot.
Yeah,
um, but once I went to Montana, I started learning about meth, and I remember
yeah,
I was like, I'm gonna bring meth to the East Coast. I'm gonna blow it up. I've never done meth still, but I remember being like, what the hell? But once I started going to rehabs, and really rehab was really just more of an extension of Montana, where my mom was like, in order for you to live here, you got to do this. And I would be like, no, and live out of my car, and they would, be, like my grandfather would be like, if you go to rehab, I'll fix your car for you. So I go to rehab. You hear
but
about all the
you're not doing it for yourself, correct? You're more, well, maybe a little because you wanted your car to be fixed,
I
right?
wanted my car to be fixed. I
Yeah,
wanted, some sort of stability. And, you know, I didn't, I guess I'd kind of just run out of options at that point. So,
yeah.
um, I go to rehab, but there again, I'm just cruising for chicks, right? I'm not, I'm going through the motions and I'm talking in groups and I got all this shit to say. You got to remember too, my family is a group of alcoholics, so I've been going to like Alateen since I was 12, so I
So
know
you
all
probably
the
know what to
jargon.
say. You probably know what to say too.
I knew what to say more than the counselors there half the time,
Yeah.
right? So I'm playing the part, but at that time too, I was young. So after rehab, they like to send you like halfway houses and like long-term programs. So I went out to Maryland, and there you become in like a sobriety community, right? And it's pretty cool.
Like
Um,
sober living.
yeah, yeah. But then like in the town, there's a bunch of kids that went through the program before, and they stuck around and they're living there, staying sober. But with that comes like I got to a point where I was like, well, I want to smoke weed and drink again. But everybody else I know wants to shoot dope or smoke crack. Nobody Nobody wants to, relapse on some weed. So I started hanging out with those guys. And, after a while, crack didn't seem so bad. So, I tried heroin a few times, never liked it, never shot it, just snorted it.
Well, you dodged a bullet there, man.
Yeah, no, I know. And unfortunately, I've had a lot of friends die or have their own struggle. Yeah, no, it's filthy. But I definitely went through
19 months. I have 19 months sober. I just smoke weed now, but I was shooting heroin and meth, so that's why
I saw you mention that on some podcasts. Good job, man. Way to proud of you with that. But I got into crack. I like smoking crack. I was right outside of Baltimore, so I did that for a little. But really, man, at the end of the day, man, my drug of choice is just my own peace and some weed. Like, I just want to be able to chill and smoke weed and, like, work, raise my kid, But even then, it was like I was down to work. I was down to do shit. But it just didn't align with what everybody else wanted for me.
Okay, I have a question. Since you're like so programmed and like you know what to say in these rehab places and whatnot, do you feel like at some point, like if you ever were to choose, like say for example you got back into crack really bad and it got really bad, right?
Yeah.
And you got to a point where you ended up going to rehab and you really wanted to change and you really wanted help and stuff. Do you feel like it would be difficult because your brain's so wired to just saying what they want to hear type thing for you to actually like sit down and be like, okay, no, I actually really want to do this. So how do I be like real instead of like real what they want me to say? You know what I mean?
I get exactly that. I haven't thought of that. Now I think if it got to that point, I think I would actually, again, without being there, it's hard. I might be just having like delusions of whatever, but I think now I wouldn't be so, I'm just, I'm 35 now, as opposed to, late teens, early 20s. I think I wouldn't be as focused on the girls. I have 2 kids now too, so I think I really would. Now, when it comes to I don't know if they're necessarily if I'm gonna hear anything that's different, right? But I think I'd be able to really take that time, that 28 days or whatever, to really kind of focus on myself and, kind of try and work this stuff properly. But I say that, right? Who knows? I might get in there and then my flight or fight response,
Exactly.
and I just get back into my old habits. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would at least like to think no, just because I'm aware of that about myself now. And I would hope that if I were in a way like that and I was given an opportunity to go away again, that I would try and take full advantage of it.
Okay, that's good.
But honestly, man, if that happens, I'm more into I'm starting to get into more of like the psychedelic therapies and stuff like that. I would be much more in tune with exploring those than, any of like the 12-step programs that, I've been doing.
Yeah. Conventional, yeah. Okay. Well, if you knowing what you know now, if you could go back in a time machine and not go through Spring Creek Lodge, would you do it, and why?
Yeah, I heard you ask that. That's an interesting one. I don't know, because it sucked. It sucked, and I do feel like I'm starting to see stuff pop up now that are from either the the transport or just just my relationship with my family and my lack of trust. But I did I do have story to tell, and it is interesting, and it's I did learn a lot about myself and life that I probably wouldn't have learned. I don't know, man. That's because at the same time, though, too, I'd want to be home for that summer after my senior year, hanging out with all my friends. I was in some trouble with some guys I owed money, so it was kind of good that I might have gotten out. I don't know. you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say I wish I didn't go.
Okay.
But there is a big part of me that does feel that, no matter how bad it was, I did, maybe it wasn't what everyone wanted me to get out of it, but I did get a lot out of it, just going through that experience. If you look at it right, it can make you stronger, good, bad, different.
What would you say you got out of it?
Just to be able to to be able to go through a schedule like that and keep my mouth shut and just live a life like that, to go through that. And, if you ever get into situations that kind of suck, like you're in traffic or you're in line, or, something's like holding you up, nothing can compare to, Montana, right?
So being like humble, so like it kind of humbles you.
Yeah, I don't, I think, it's Montana, it's the rehabs, it's the different thing. It's like, this can always be worse. I at least have my own place. I have my own rules, and, if shit's hitting the fan, it's still going to be a lot better than, when it was hitting the fan back then and what I had to go through. So.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
It's been nice because I've been trying to think about stuff, and I don't remember a lot. I don't I remember bits and pieces of seminars and the daily life. A funny story. I remember we always won cleanest cabin, right? So we got to always pick out the movie. And
What family? What family?
Courage.
Okay.
And I was a family leader, so I got to pick out the movie. So I remember they maybe it might have been Wiggle, somebody, I don't remember who, but they brought me over two movies. One was, I think it's called The Day After Tomorrow. It's like end of the world movie, like action movie. And then the other one was The Notebook. Okay, like the romance movie.
Yeah.
And as a joke, I picked The Notebook. I was like, I'm gonna mess with these guys, right? So the movie comes on, and you just literally, right when it starts, you just hear the whole cabin, not even my family, the whole cabin, like, what the fuck, what? Well, speed up, right? I think this was like the Sunday night movie, how it would run into the shower time.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to take a shower, you'd have to, but sometimes if the movie was good, the kids wouldn't go. Well, we're an hour 10 minutes into this movie, deep into it. Shower time comes. Nobody's getting up to take a shower. you got was it 20 dudes in this room, 18 years old, enthralled with The Notebook.
Yeah.
I always got a kick out of that.
That's funny. Okay, what about your parents? Have you forgiven your parents? Could you forgive your parents? Have you talked to them about how you feel about being sent there? And how's your relationship with your parents?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my relationship is fine. I see them; they're in my life. I am definitely reserved with them, though. I don't share everything with them. They're not really in my circle of trust, as you'd say. Sometimes I'll run decisions by them, but not really. So yeah, could I forget? I in a way, I do forgive my mom. I get how she could have done it. I understand her thought process, right? So I can kind of understand. Well, my father, I kind of, I don't know. And that's more new since I've had kids. I try and put myself in that situation. And I think for me, I would have probably at least taken a go at, because I lived with my mom. I saw my dad, but my mom is kind of who ran my life when growing up. So I wonder what it would have been like if I was given the opportunity to live with my father instead of going to Montana, you know. So I've been kind of, you know, I think that even if it was bad, I would probably still take my kid in and see what I can do as a dad. Because my dad was a lot more chill. Like, he understood. His whole thing was me being safe, you know, where if I was drunk and I called my mom, I'd get grounded. If I was drunk and called my dad, he'd give me a ride, give me a lecture, and then move on, you know. So I don't know, man. That's kind of and it's funny because it's been so long, but kind of, you know, through getting into like psychedelics and stuff, and like that's kind of stuff that's been coming up. Kind of my relationship with him, and throughout this, because I always kind of left him off to the side. I was like, my mom was in control. He just did his thing, and you know, kind of whatever she said went. And to me, that made sense. But now as a dad, I'm like, I don't know. But I love my dad. He's a good man. But, you know, just trying to be honest, I guess, kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, for sure. And knowing what you know now, is it your opinion that these places should or even could be regulated by now, or is it your opinion that they should be shut down?
Yeah, I think anything that's like what we went to shut down. I just don't think. I don't think you have schools that aren't really accredited schools being run by unaccredited people. With all these kids, I don't understand how it's even there. You know, if they came up with a place that was, you know, really all licensed there, you know, I guess that's like a mental hospital or a hospital, but like, you know, or even rehab in a way. But like I don't know how you do it per se, but I don't think that's the way. I don't think having just random people who live in Montana that, I mean, let's face it too, they're, you know, no, some of those people are fine, but these people are in the middle of Montana. They don't really know what the hell the world is like. And I don't know. I just thought it was really weird that, you know, none of these people were really certified or professionals. And even like the school accreditation was bullshit. You know, it was really when I got out, like I always had my feelings, but when I got out was when I was really like, wow, this was a lot of this bullshit. Like the communications between my parents and my family rep, especially at the beginning. It's just a moneymaker, you know, and they really went after parents that had no other options and sold the hell out of it, you know. So
Okay.
I think the intentions are pure. I think that there you know, there may be, you know, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of troubled youth, troubled kids that need support and help. So, you know, to be able to do something, and let's face it, you know, the seminars you know, they sucked. And now that we're talking, like kind of things are coming back with things I experienced in those seminars with myself and just, you know, seeing other people. A lot of stuff with females too. You know, when they would share and you'd hear kind of the shit they've been through. You know, that was real mind opening. But I mean, those seminars, man, you know, done right, you know, maybe not as intense. I mean, there was some,
and choosing to go as opposed to forced.
yeah, there is some, you know, good with those. I do feel, you know, I don't know, but the way that setup was, the way W.W.A.S.P was set up, I don't think there should be anything like that. And I think it's pure manipulation on them to get money. I think it's borderline child abuse. And yeah, I mean, how many places are still open really that are kind of like this? Do you know?
We don't have I don't believe we actually have a running number.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few. There's quite a few still open.
Like I've seen some of the stuff, like they are regulating some places I've noticed in like Utah.
Yeah, regulating.
But that's just making it
So,
the government, like, or the states can just go check them out, right? That's pretty much it.
pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's not what it should be. It's not what
Yeah,
it should be.
yeah. No, that I mean, that's a step in the right direction, but yeah, no, these places. And then you hear about like Jamaica and stuff like that. I mean, listen, I know these kids are bad, but if this kid's that bad, then either he needs mental attention, and maybe looked at from a medical standpoint to get on proper medication, stuff like that, or like you just need to be a better parent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, Dev talked about Nick. Nick was there from what I remember because he got busted watching some porno on his family computer. And he got sent, and that program took him and sold his family on how he had to stay there for watching some porn. And then he ended up dying out there. You know what I mean? Like, a place that does that doesn't need to be around.
Yeah, for sure. What do you feel like the hardest part about being at Spring Creek was for you? And how did you deal with like the hardest times there? Like for me, I journaled.
Yeah, journaling was good. I mean, I played basketball there a lot. Like we would, well, let me answer your question. What was the first part of it again?
What was the hardest part about being at Spring Creek?
The hardest part, yeah. So the hardest part. I mean, at the beginning, it was this is gonna sound silly, but I didn't like not being able to like eat on my own terms, what I want, when I want.
So no control.
Yeah, but it's funny because I don't know. I kind of fell in really quick, and it wasn't. I don't want to say it was really hard for me. It sucked, but it wasn't hard. I'd say the hardest. The hardest thing for me was probably the seminars because I'd be so nervous because I shared, I kind of felt like I was bullshitting my way through, and I always kind of felt like that would come out during a seminar. You know what I mean? So, just going through those and the anxiety with that to get through, that really sucked.
Were you like straight up bullshitting your way through, or were you like sharing, but you didn't feel like your story was adequate compared to other people's experiences?
I was making up stories to make myself sound
okay.
I would, yeah. I mean, I was going for the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was that asshole that if you were trying to level up and I got to like vote, I would raise my hand. I was that dick. You know what I mean? But not to my friends, but if there was a kid, that I could do it to, we'd do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say, just kind of, I mean, even though I was going through it, just being away from everyone and my family and just knowing what I was missing out on. And yeah, not being able to fucking eat. But, we played ball. Summertime, we'd have a tournament. I somehow was on, I did, we got to go to a basketball camp at Thompson Falls High School. So I did that with like a bunch of junior staff, and I was still encouraged. That was cool. And yeah, I don't know. And just tried to make the best out of it. I mean, we'd rap battle in the corner, like during our free time. We'd fucking draw. I mean, I had a really good family too. I should have touched on that more. I mean, we had some awesome fucking guys. I don't know. We made the best of it. We really did. And we had a lot of laughs. And I had good family fathers. I don't know if you heard it, because you went after me, right?
I got there January 23rd, 2007.
Okay. So a couple years. Was this guy Jim Owens there? Jim-O?
Yeah. I know exactly who that is. That was my family father. Because I was in honor family, and I'm pretty sure Courage turned into honor.
Okay, so you had Jim. So when I left, he had
Yeah, he'd say Whitewater. He'd say Whitewater, right?
Yeah, or he'd sing
Yep.
like Bluebird.
Yep.
Yeah, he was great. And then I had I forget the other guy's name. Was it Jim too? Jason. He used to cook meth in like a trailer somewhere. He was sober like a while. He was a quiet dude, but yeah, he didn't really fuck with you. He just kind of came in, did his job. And like you, and then yeah, Jimbo was just a ray
Did
of
he play
fucking.
guitar? Oh, no, that was Justin. Never mind.
Who?
It was the wrong person.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, Jimbo became a family rep.
Yep.
Like right before I left.
Oh yeah. Jimmo was the same person. I was talking about Jason. I thought Jason was Justin, who played guitar. But
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think he played guitar. He had like a long beard. He kind of looked. They called him the Devil. He said that was like his drug dealing name was the Devil, because he looked like the Devil. Yeah. But I don't know, man. We like I said, we'd always win cleanest cabin. We were always in pretty good standing with things. You know, like when new kids came in, we kind of told them what the deal was, and I don't know, like again, it sucked, but I'm sure I'm very lucky with what my experience was and the group of guys I had around me that we made it okay. And then the ranch was more like a summer camp. You just couldn't go out there and there's no chicks. But like I said, there was really the good food. We had a lot more free time, a lot more freedom, did what we wanted. I came back in like the best shape of my life, from working on the ranch. Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else you want to share about your story, or that you want people to know, or that you maybe would tell somebody that's thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
Well, if you're thinking of sending your kid to a place like this, definitely don't. Do your research. There's a lot of other things you can look at medically, spiritually. I mean, there's so many things, but I do understand that kids don't also listen for shit. Even like I consider myself a pretty cool parent, and my kids still don't listen to me. So they're young, but it's still, I get worried that when shit hits the fan, they're not going to listen to their old man. He's kind of already hit his head, but yeah, I'll look at other options. Really try and figure it out, because I just, from what I've seen and what I've heard from other people's stories and what they've gone through, it's no way to treat a child, especially a kid who, I wasn't in trouble with the law. Sure, maybe I wasn't, exactly following the law, but I wasn't a terrible, terrible kid. I was maybe lost and maybe not a great son, but I wasn't a bad person. And to be treated pretty much like a criminal, that sucks. So, if you have a kid or you're just having some issues with that, maybe isn't a full blown, first off too, if your kid's on drugs, do not send them there, because if they need a detox, there's no detoxes at these places. There's like no setup for a true drug rehabilitation. So I don't know. I don't get how they got away with it, but don't do it. And then the last thing I want to say, one thing I've been thinking about is not letting this all define me anymore. We all had our challenges growing up. We had our challenges there, and more than likely, a lot of us have had some issues afterwards. There's obviously a reason for all of this. But at the end of the day, now with social media and everything, we all kind of have each other now to chat with, keep it real with, and but we don't have to let it define ourselves anymore, and we can create who we want to be, and try and at least take some of the good shit we did learn there, even if you liked it or not, you learned something there. Try and use it for good. and, you know, maybe try and go out there and help the next person, you know, that you see struggling, or a family that you know is struggling. Just go talk to that kid, you know, and, you know, that's the way, a good way to start is just by us people that have grown up to realize, it's not all that bad, or, you know, it was way worse looking back, or, you know, whatever. You know, you can tell these kids it will get better, you know, and, you know, give them some hope.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you ever think of anything else, then we can do a part 2. I usually do part 2s with people, just if nothing else, just to check up and see how you're doing. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, no, we'll chat. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, man.
You too, man. Bye.
All right. Bye.